Welcome to the Real Experts Podcast. I'm Brett Jennings, and for the last 15 years, I've traveled the country to meet, mentor, and mastermind with some of the brightest and best minds both inside and outside of real estate. Get ready to elevate your game as we unpack the mindset, strategies, and tactics of these elite performers achieving extraordinary results. All right, well, welcome to another episode of the Real Experts Podcast. I'm super excited today to connect with an amazing business leader, a great friend, and most importantly, just an amazing human. Spring Bengtzen is the CEO of Utah Life Real Estate Group, one of the largest real estate teams in the country. Under her leadership, the team's achieved some pretty amazing things, selling now over 750 homes a year in 2023. And Spring's not only known for success in real estate, but her role as a mentor, coach, and helping other real estate professionals scale their businesses from 6 to 7 and even 8 figures. She's got a simple approach to technology and systems in her business. She's married to a technology guru and has really actually helped my business a lot. She's also an adventurous outdoor enthusiast, engaging in activities like hiking, biking, but not just like your average weekend stuff. This girl like runs marathons, does the 29029 challenge. If any of you don't know what that is, that's like climbing the equivalent of Mount Everest 5 times, and is just a dynamic and energetic person. So like many hyperachievers, I would call them, as I'm self-proclaimed one myself, they've come about that through overcoming some major challenges in life. And she is not immune from that herself. We're going to unpack and talk a little bit more about that today in the show. So Spring, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Brett. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So talk to us, everybody's got an interesting story of how they got into real estate and what kind of set them up for success. And as we talk about in this show, the personal growth journey and the business growth journey are definitely intertwined when you get to higher levels. So tell us a little bit about your story, like how you got into real estate and what was that early experience that set the stage for you?
Oh my gosh, Brett. I got into real estate as a fluke, to be very candid with you. So I was raised in Utah, and the culture that I was raised in was get married young, have some babies, stay at home. And so that was really my career ambitions. I went to cosmetology school in high school. And so I was cutting hair right out of high school. I got engaged super young. And my husband wanted to move about an hour away from the salon up to a little town called Eden. And so we moved up there, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to rebuild my career or my clientele, because I didn't want to drive an hour and a half to go cut hair. Yeah. And it just happened that a woman that we knew worked for the local land developer. She worked on the golf course, and we went to dinner one night after boating on the lake, and she said they were hiring. And my husband was like, Spring would be perfect for that job. And I just remember like kicking him underneath the table, like, what are you doing to me? Like, I don't even have my license. Like, I just gave him that look of death.
Yeah. And by the way, how old were you at this point?
I was like 22,
Okay.
23 probably. And she was like, do you want to apply? I'm like, sure. So I hurried and finished the schooling. I went and applied. And then this is what happened. The woman that I interviewed with who hired me was the broker. And so they gave me the job. I went and quit my hair at the salon. I told everybody. And then I got a call, and she's like, Spring, we can't hire you. And I'm like, what? And she said, our developer, our builder doesn't think our clients will relate to you, and he doesn't want to hire you. And I'm like, well, I already quit and told everybody. She said, well, why don't you come in and work, and let's just see what happens. And so I went and shadowed Brett for 6 months. No hyperbole. I showed up every day. I shadowed. I followed her and what she showed the properties. I sat in the backseat of her car. And then what ended up happening was I answered the phone one day, and a gentleman from your neck of the woods, his name is Nicholas Saucedo, he called in, and I answered all his questions. At the end of it, I'd heard her say this so many times. She said, do you want to write an offer? And so I ended it with, would you like to make an offer? And he said, yeah, actually I would. And so I sold my first property over the phone, and the developer was like, oh, maybe she could do this. And the rest is history. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that was what got you in the door. Was there anything in that experience of Because most people, I don't know many people who've actually come in through new home sales that have come in and just like lit the world on fire, because it is typically it's a lead receiving kind of
Yep.
position where, you sit there and the developer's got the people coming in the door. They don't have to do any prospecting. They don't have to work hard. So like, was there anything in that experience that set you up for success, or what was it that?
Yeah. I think I was set up for success for a couple of reasons. You're right. It was a lead receiving, but it also was prior to Facebook and it was
Mm-hmm.
prior to Zillow. I mean, this was
Mm.
like 20 plus years ago. So I did have to work the leads. Like the leads would come in and then I would have to nurture them. And I worked in a resort community that the average transaction took 3 to 5 years because they were coming into
Holy smokes.
a second home. So I was really good at the nurture follow-up sequence. So I prospected every single day. It was just a different way of prospecting, right?
So you probably had to do, in that kind of long sales game, you had to do more relationship building. It was more relational, less transactional. Is that true?
Yeah. And well, they would come in on their vacation. So then I'd get to know like their family, show them around. And then I'd put the note into my CRM of their situation. Then I would follow up. Hey, are you coming this ski season? Or this property came on the market. Would it be of interest to you? Like we just built the rapport
Mm-hmm.
around it. And so, but what ended up happening, Brett, is I actually had a really great career. I had a great run. And then the economy tanked in the 08, 09 market, and that developer ended up going bankrupt.
Hmm.
And because nobody needs a vacation home when
When we're in a recession, a
yeah.
massive recession.
Yeah. And so I went from selling their properties to now most of these were second homes. So a lot of people were making business decisions to short sell. So I went from selling luxury real estate. I had never done an FHA loan. I don't even know what FHA was, to all of a sudden I'm doing short sells and foreclosures and I'm working in this market. And so that taught me though that like homes will always sell in any market. You just need to, as a
Mm.
real estate professional, be willing to pivot how you do business, like who your clientele is. So it actually was a great thing for me, but that's how I ended up pivoting.
Interesting. I got my license 3 days after Bear Stearns collapsed. So I cut my
Okay.
teeth on short sales. I didn't start with luxury sales. So you went from the penthouse selling
Yep.
luxury real estate down into selling distressed real estate. But what I know for myself, that lesson was, at least at the time, at the early beginning, like right after Bear Stearns collapsed, you couldn't sell anything. People had problems and you could solve problems for people. And if you could solve problems for people, you could sell real estate.
Yep. Well, I was fortunate too. I worked in a really small market that I had a massive market share. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had a really big market share. So even though there was less sells, if a sell was happening, I was probably on one
Part of
side of
it.
it. Yeah. So I was really fortunate. And then what happened, Brett, is I actually got Realtor Magazine's 30 Under 30 in
Ah.
2010. And that developer at the time was like, what do you want to do with the brokerage? Like, we're going to close all this down. And I was like, I don't really want to have a brokerage that's has a bankrupt development tied to it. And I ended up joining Keller Williams. And that's when KW really came out with the whole like join a team, all that stuff in my world. And so that's how the team started.
Got it. So you started a real estate when you made the move to Keller, you got in the Keller culture, got Kellerized, drank the red Kool-Aid,
Kellerized. Yep.
and then started building a real estate team. So was there anything on that team building journey? Like so 2000, this is 11, 12, somewhere in there?
Yeah. So I ran a really small Navy SEAL team for years just because it was my identity. Like I was able to have a great business and people were just attracted of like, oh, go work with Spring or whatever. Right. But
And when you say a small SEAL team, 4 agents, 6 agents, 10 agents, what are we talking?
at that time, probably 3 to 4
Okay.
max. And everybody was selling 40 plus homes a year by themselves on the team. So they were great quality agents that we all worked together. But it was brutal because they would come and they would go, right? Like every two
Mm,
years, and you run that small market. And I was fortunate enough, yes, I was Kellerized, but Brett had no clue what I was doing. Like
mm.
I didn't work. I worked in a small resort market and then here I come join, create a team. And so I just plugged into all the Keller stuff and the opportunities. And so that's when I learned about Boomtown. I was the first Boomtown platform in Utah when it was exclusive, right?
Yep.
And online lead gen and all those things. So for me, the journey was I ran the same business for years and years and years until probably about 7-ish years ago. And you and I have a mutual friend that was like, he just called me out. He's like, why are
Mm,
you not growing? Like what's going on?
mm, 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 mm.
And so he mapped out a whole plan of like, this is how you're going to grow. And this is what all these big players are doing. And you can do this. And I walked away from that meeting and I didn't take action. I didn't do 1 ounce of what he mapped out. And a year later, he called me and he said, hey, you know that plan that we mapped out? He's like, I'll help you execute it if you're willing to do it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like if you'll help me execute. And so we did a whole recruiting, it was a recruiting plan. And
Yeah.
we mapped out a whole recruiting plan where I got a blog and a website, and I started teaching classes and all these things. And I was so freaked out. I was sharing this with you earlier. He said to me, the thing that like really, really struck home and how my growth started happening, Brett, is I
Mm-hmm.
had massive insecurity around my value and being an imposter. And like, you want me to go put out all this content that I know what I'm doing? Like, and he just said to me, he said, Spring, you just need to know your audience.
Mm.
Like he's like, I wouldn't come to your class. I'm not who you're trying to attract. So
Yeah.
know your audience of who you're trying to attract, and they need to hear what you have to say. And when I took that approach, I was like, okay, I get it. Game on. Let's go. So,
Couple things you touch on there that I want to pull forward. One is like Frank was our mutual friend,
right.
right? And another one of our friends in coaching circles talks about accountability is the highest form of love you can show another human being. And the example is like a good friend, if you're not expressing who you really are or whatever, like if you're in a marriage and you're cheating on your spouse, or if you're
Mhm.
getting drunk during the day, your best friend's going to pull you aside and go, hey, what are you doing?
Yep.
So in essence, like Frank, he saw you and recognized something in you and said, hey, Spring, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. I totally appreciate him. Like he was great. And I love that he saw something that I didn't see. So yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So where like what I noticed in my own journey and talking to really high performers like you, at some point, two things that happen. Like there's either a major life event that you overcome that creates a drive and a hunger within you that drives you to what I call your first summit. And maybe starting your real estate team was your first summit. I don't know. But what was it for you where you really got on the personal growth journey and recognized that, you know what, like if my business is going to grow, I got to grow?
Yeah, it wasn't actually until about 4 or 5 years ago. And actually, it was a little bit before that, Brett, but my personal growth journey started
Mm-hmm.
happening because I was miserable. So
Mm,
business was normal. I mean, Brett, I made the same amount of money in 2003 than I made in 2020.
mm-hmm.
It didn't matter the size of the team. It didn't matter if I was a solo practitioner. It didn't matter. Like my identity was that number.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
mhm.
So business models changed, market changed, and your like financial thermostat or success thermostat was set at this, and that was it. Didn't matter
That's
the
what,
market.
yeah.
You were just, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
And you know why is because I had this identity. And then this is what
Mm,
I literally told myself. I was like, I'm in Utah. I'm a female. I'm one of the only people that works out of my friends at the time. Like I was bringing in however much hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to my household. Like I was like, I'm good. I'm contributing this much to my household. Like life is chill. Like that was
mm,
literally my conversation to myself.
mm,
Right.
mm, 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 mm.
And what happened though is it wasn't even a financial thing. I was just really burned out. Like starting to do this at 22, 23 years old. Again, the team now had gotten to maybe like 12 agents. My marriage was great and it is great, but it also felt very business. Brian and I both in the real estate space at that time, he actually sold real estate and was just starting
I
CSU.
didn't know that.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it just was very blah. And I was in this like ready just to burn it all down. And
Mm,
it started going into like hiring some coaches, some life coaches, understanding that like the story that you're telling yourself is what you're
mm,
creating, right? We all have the same
mm-hmm.
60,000 thoughts a day. So really understanding what those thoughts were. And once I did, I was like, oh, geez, no wonder. Wonder where I'm at where I'm today. But in the business world, so I started going down this personal development. I went and discovered breath work. I understood the power of the I am. I understood like calming your mind, all this stuff. But really, really happened was about 4 years ago. I had a friend who I respected at the highest level. She was like on this pedestal of like her life, her marriage, her job, and all this stuff. And she invited me to go to a training. And I have no idea what this training was, but she just said, I've seen it change people's lives. I thought of you. I would love for you to attend. And I went to it, and it was an NLP training, and it was crazy expensive, Brett. And it was for 10 days. I'm like, what am I
Wow.
doing? Yeah. But I walked away from that training. I sat next to her, and two things happened. I sat next to her, and I was like, man, she was like making $1 million a month in mortgage. And I was just like, I can't even fathom that. Right. And I was like, I really like, there's a next level for me. How do I get there? Like, what do I do? And at the end of the training, like in the training, they teach you all about what you play on the screen of your mind is a preview of upcoming events. So like what you're playing here is going to happen out here. Your
Mm-hmm.
internal world is a mere reflection of your external world, right?
100%. Yeah.
Um, that you are running off a really old programming. So the way he articulated it was so great of like, think about your brain as a supercomputer, and we're running off of programming that from our parents and our grandparents and theirs. And like, it's really shitty old programming that we need to remove,
Upgrade.
install, upgrade to the new programming. And so once I started understanding that, and then understanding how to do it, like understanding how to remove the negative, understanding how to program the goal as a memory, I'm like, I can do this. So
Just curiously, what year about was this? Because it's interesting.
October,
I think I met you in the previous version of yourself, maybe 2015 or 16, somewhere.
yeah,
We met at a mastermind or a
yeah,
stellar
probably a
event.
great mastermind. And I was just like,
Yeah. And we connected. And then I do remember around 2020, all of a sudden, like this new Spring 2.0, like busted out of the box, and you were doing bigger things, putting yourself out there in a way that I had never seen you
yeah,
express before.
yeah.
And so that was a turning point for you. Taking a quick break here on The Real Experts, this podcast is all about mastering the mindsets, strategies, and tactics essential for becoming the best version of yourself, both personally and professionally. If what you've heard today inspired you, don't just make this a one-off, make it a habit. Hit that subscribe button now to join this community and stay inspired. We've got an epic lineup of future guests coming your way that you won't want to miss.
Yep, October of 2020. So it's interesting, Brett. I wrote down, he said, I want you to write down one thing that has to happen in this training that you know that it worked. And so I wrote down, I make the same amount of money in 1 month that I make in a year now. And
Mm.
I had no clue how I was going to do it or whatever, but I was like, she's making $1 million. Like, there's got to
It's
be,
possible.
yeah, it's
It's
possible.
possible.
Yeah.
And isn't it amazing how, like, when you get in either the thought sphere, energy sphere, just physical presence, and get to hang out with people who are
Yeah.
performing at some amazing elite level in whatever their domain is, and then
Yep.
you realize they're just human. You're
Human.
like,
Yeah.
wait a second, like they're not really like they're smart, and they're amazing, but I'm just as amazing. And if they can do it, I can do it. Like that principle of borrowed belief is something that's in and of itself is transformational.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so
So this is fun though. So Brett, he has you create a 90-year vision board of the 90 things and 100 experiences you'd want to have and 100 memories. Anyway, I went through and
wow.
did it, and I went back and looked at it not too long ago from that first year. And everything I wrote down pretty much had happened, but maybe different. I joined a different company or things, but like everything I wrote down, a year later, just so you know, a year later, I made the same amount of money in a month that I made in a year. And I was like, this is insane. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in that, what else, like at that moment when you recognize like what was
Hmm.
previously impossible
Yeah.
happened for you, was there anything else that became possible for you or?
Yeah. I think for me, understanding. So I ended up hiring William as a private coach for a while. And I remember a
Mhm.
conversation with him that I had that really actually changed the way I think. And I said, everybody's da 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 da. And he goes, who's everybody? And it triggered something in me. I'm like, you're right. There's people, and I'll just use money for context, but it can be whatever. There's people making way more money than I am, that I'm freaking broke, right? And then there's people who are making way less that I probably come off as extremely wealthy. And so, like, who's everybody?
Mm, 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 mm.
Everybody is who you're choosing to like frame it. And once I realized that, I was like, wow, there's like a whole world out there, and it really is what you choose, you want it to be and create it. And so it just started that. And then really understanding too, the second part is like you talk a lot about this, but your vibration and
Hmm.
how your frequency, like we're all one big ball of energy, and your currency is your energy, right? Money is an
Mm.
energy exchange. That's all it is. So what is that energy that you're putting out there to the universe that you're attracting?
That's awesome. So curiously, that work that you did with William and 1 year later, boom, was this around the same time that you in your journey that Frank came to work with you and then you started building the team, or where just looking at how those two timelines intersect?
Yeah, Justin started working with me. So I opened up a brokerage in 2019. I left Keller Williams and
Hmm.
I was like, oh, people don't leave my team, they leave my brokerage. I mean, they don't leave Spring, they leave the team. I'll open a brokerage, they can stay. And so I hired, that's you, right?
Yeah, that's happened to me.
And so I opened up a brokerage in 20, actually, I opened up a brokerage in 2020. It was a March of 2020. And I only know this because of pandemic. I opened March 1st and the pandemic hit March 14th or something like that, right?
Mm.
And so, but at that time, I was just like in that world, I was like, I'm going to control the controllable. Like I can't control all this. So all I can control is how we're showing up. And so we actually
Hmm.
grew so rapidly because we were again vibrating this, like we were the lighthouse, we had solutions, we were doing high vibe trainings, like we were in that space. And so we grew really, really fast. And then I asked him, he was just helping me grow the brokerage. And at the end of 2020, I said, hey, what do you think if you came and ran this team with me? And he was like, yeah, I'm in. And so that's when we really started to explode, was the two of us. I put him in his lane and his sweetness spot, me in mine. And then it also freed me up to go open up, do the revenue share play, to do mortgage, to do title, to do the coaching. And so a lot of the growth comes with having the right who's that you're surrounded.
Mm. So you touched on something that's super important there. So finding the right who. So prior to, was it this, you're speaking about Justin?
Yep. Yep.
Justin came in as like your who. He was your sales leader,
Yep.
integrator to a certain degree,
Yep.
and enabled you to free you up to be in your sweet spot or your top 20%. What do you see as your top 20% or the most, your zone of genius?
I'm really great at, if we're going to go with the whole integrator thing, I'm actually great at the visionary of like, here's the direction, here's where we're going, like, and mapping it out. And then having the right team of the execution is probably my
Hmm.
zone of genius right now. I feel like I'm the same as you. We have a pretty big pulse on what's happening
Hmm.
in all realms of the space. So now it's really like, where do we want to go and execute? I would say if you can go into this market with understanding you create everything, understanding the whole vibration thing, understanding it, like this market is so, I want to say ripe for taking, but it is like yearning for this, right? The lack of scarcity. And so I'm just in my zone of genius right now of like, let's go be the lighthouse, let's go create, let's help people grow, and everything is growing right now in my world.
Mm. So it's all growing, and you talk about growth. You do go through periods of contraction and expansion. Looking at like your growth journey, what was one of the most challenging decisions you've had to make? Because as we know, like we talked about before the show opened up, you're like people step back and look at from the outside, and they're like, "You guys look like you have it all together, and that like your success was just this straight line." But we know
Yep.
it's a lot of ups and downs. What have been some of the hardest or most challenging decisions that you've had to make in getting to where you are now?
I've made a lot of, I think at the time they felt heavy. Now you look back and you're like, why didn't I make that decision before?
Sooner,
But
sooner. Yeah.
yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, I think obviously I felt very fortunate how my career started. I feel very fortunate for the downturn in the market. I know that sounds crazy, but it really did teach me that how to be able to pivot. I don't think if they didn't have that downturn that I would have been able to pivot into the retail side of things.
Hmm.
I feel very fortunate for the lack of growth on the team. I know that sounds crazy, but again, you either operate off of pain and pleasure. I definitely had to get to the pain point where it was like, okay, I got to do something different, right? But I would say like my major growth most happened at those key moments, like joining the brokerage, market tanking, going to KW, starting a team, and then honestly leaving KW, which is this, I'm a huge fan of KW. I am a huge fan of like, I'm KW built
Yeah.
and the best decision I've ever made.
It's interesting. I have probably the same, I don't know if it's the same level of love and affinity because I kind of grew up Keller. I say grew up, right? Like my first
Yeah.
100 million I did
Yeah.
at Keller. And yeah, it was hard to leave, but I don't regret it at all, you know.
Yeah, I think, well, I try to be very respectful because I hate when people are like, oh, I'm so great and da da da. But the best decision I made was getting out of a bubble and being like, oh, there's a whole world out here, because there's a whole world out here. And I think a lot of times we drink the Kool-Aid of where we're at. And it's like, I tell people all the time, like I'm on multiple recruiting calls a day at this point. And I just tell people, I'm like, hey, you can't make a right or a wrong decision. The right decision is what's right for you. And here's the benefits of where you're at. And so I just try to be respectful in the KW thing, but that was the pivotal moment, was I'm out. And it just created growth for me that I don't think would have happened if I would have stayed put.
Yeah. What, looking forward, you know, one of the things you said that you did in this process with William was a 90-year life vision board. Like what, and you've accomplished a lot of it. So what's next for you? What do you see as the best version of you over the next 5 years, inside real estate, outside real estate? Where are you taking all of this?
Yeah, Brett, I'm in the process of like version Spring 18.0 right now. Like I'm in like rapid growth mode of who I'm becoming, and I'm excited about it. So real estate, I think for the Utah life, the vehicle for me at this point is creating a platform that the people in my ecosystem create the incomes and the lives that they want to create. I
Mhm.
love the local team, and it feeds a lot of families, and I'm here for it. I
And
think
how big is that team now?
we have about 80 agents.
80 agents.
And I think we'll expand throughout the state of Utah. I used to have a vision, Brett, of like, hey, I want to go build out teams across the United States. I don't really think that's what I want to do anymore. I think more have a platform that like we can help agents with whatever they need, but I don't think I want to actually own the team, right? I think more of like a platform with the revenue share that we've got and whatnot. We'll go heavier in the coaching space. The coaching space was a little bit of a fluke for me. That's another story, but I'm 3 years in. It's been a fun ride. It's been something I've been trying to figure out. And now I'm like, okay, I see it. I see the vision. It's getting clearer. I see how we can do this. I see the value we can add to people's lives. And quite frankly, Brett, like, again, no shame or like disrespect to any of the coaching organizations out there. Like, I'm a fan, but I think we offer something different. Like,
Mhm.
between Justin and myself and some of the people, like we're pretty high vibe, and we add in that human element and whatnot. And it's not just about selling homes. And I think it's needed. I don't think I
100%.
know. Yeah. And so we've got some cool things happening there too. So the next 5 years, I think you're going to see a lot of spring all over your social media, and it's going to be great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So as we go to wrap up the conversation, you know, there's most of our audience are people who they've already got their legs under them in real estate. You know, they've
Yeah.
been in 4, 5, 6 years. Maybe they're a solo producer that's doing, you know, 10, 20 million in business, or they've got a small team. You know, if for somebody who is looking to go to that next level in this current environment, what would be your advice to them?
So I've always grown through partnerships.
Hmm.
So I would say, what strategic partnerships do you need to create? And when I say that, meaning like Justin was a strategic hire, but partnership. He's talent, and I made him a deal of like, how do we grow together, right? Same with on the coaching side, same with like mortgage. I have a partner on the mortgage company who does the back end, and I'm the one who feeds it, right? Same with title, my joint ventures with Fidelity. And so I would just challenge you, like, if you're kind of in that, like, what's next? How do I do this? There's somebody who's done it already at a high level that you could probably have a conversation with and say, A, what are my next steps? Or B, how do I get in business in alignment with you? Or C, look at who you need to hire to help you go to that next level.
Awesome. And lastly, what do you want to be remembered for?
Oh my gosh. Great question. Well, the question
When
is,
this is, yeah, when this is all
question
said
is,
and done,
yeah, the question is, who are you referring to? So
it'll probably be spring some infinite
70.0.
number.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I mean, like, so with my I think it's different. So what I'm saying that is like, I want to be remembered honestly for with my family, like my kids and my husband.
Mm.
Like at the end of the day, like I want to be remembered with them of loving and caring and kind and
Mm.
like and present and a creator and helping them create whatever it is. And like, I just want to remember that as that high vibe. In terms of like outside of that, of course, that would be like, oh yeah, spring, but like, it's kind of irrelevant to me. I'm going to create while I'm here. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to impact some lives. But the number one people that I care about remembering me are them. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Spring, it's been awesome catching up with you, digging into a little bit about your success journey. So thank you so much. And if people want to follow you, check out what you're up to, what's next and where you're going, or, get into your world, where would they find you?
Just find me on the gram, Real Spring Bee. If somebody monitors that account, like they'll get back to you. It'll be me actually. I watch my DMs, but yeah, DM me, follow me. I'd love to connect with you. And yeah, let's connect.
Awesome. Well, thanks for Spring taking the time. And for all those listening, don't just be an agent, be the expert. Have a great one. That's a wrap for today's episode of The Real Experts. If you like what you heard, take a moment and leave us a review and subscribe to join this incredible community of changemakers. Better yet, share this podcast with a friend or fellow agent who you know could benefit from these insights. If you'd like to learn more about our one-on-one or group coaching, check out our website at www.bearealexpert.com. We'll be back next week with more expert advice, so stay tuned. Until next week, don't just be an agent, be the expert.